What's the most meaningful I love you you've ever received that wasn't said with words? This happened about 3 years ago, but I still think about it constantly. My BF Rodney and I were going through a rough patch financially. We'd been together for almost 4 years, living in this tiny one-bedroom apartment with paper-thin walls where you could literally hear the neighbors sneeze. Times were tough. I was working 2 jobs, he was picking up whatever work he could get, and we were barely making rent each month. My car was this ancient Ford that had seen better days like IDK 20 years ago. The check engine light had been on so long I'd named it Gerald for those curious LOL. But we couldn't afford repairs, let alone a new car, and I needed it to get to my morning job since buses didn't run that early in our area. One Monday morning at 4:30 a.m., I went to start my car for my early shift, and nothing. Complete silence. Tried again. Nothing. I started low-key panicking because I couldn't miss this shift. We were already behind on rent, and I'd been written up once before for being late. Another one would have put my job at risk. I ran back upstairs in tears and woke Rodney. He immediately tried jumping the car, but quickly realized it wasn't the battery. The transmission had finally given up the ghost. I was having a full-on meltdown at this point. We couldn't afford repairs, couldn't afford a new car, and I might lose my job. Without hesitation, Rodney handed me his car keys and said he'd figure something out for himself. His work site was 45 minutes away in the opposite direction from mine, and he had to be there by 6 a.m. No Ubers in our rural area, and his coworkers all lived elsewhere. I knew something was off when he just shrugged and said it was fine. But I was so stressed I took his car and left. It wasn't until my lunch break that I checked my phone and saw a text from his coworker Clyde with a picture of Rodney arriving at the site, soaking wet and looking exhausted F. That's when I learned what he'd done. After I left, he had walked 2 miles in freezing rain to the bus stop, taken the bus as far as it would go, then walked another 4 miles to get to work. All told, it took him nearly 3 hours. He was soaked to the bone, his work boots were ruined, and he was late, which meant less pay for the day. But he hadn't said a word to me about it. When I called him freaking out, he just laughed it off. NBD, babe, how's my car treating you? That night, I found out he'd also called his friend Bennett, who worked at a garage, to come look at my car. Rodney had offered to help Bennett renovate his bathroom in exchange for fixing my car with salvaged parts. For the next 2 weeks, Rodney continued this brutal commute. He'd come home with blistered feet, often soaking wet, but never once complained. He'd just ask about my day and if I wanted to watch something. One night, I broke down and told him he didn't have to keep doing this, that we could figure something else out. And he said something I'll never forget. Your job matters more right now. You're building something. I'm just paying bills. The thing is, I knew what his pride and independence meant to him. His dad had walked out when he was a kid, and he'd always been determined to be reliable, to never let down people who counted on him. He would rather physically suffer than see me lose my job. That was the moment I realized what love really meant. Not the flowers on Valentine's Day or saying "Eily" in texts. He didn't do it to be a hero or to throw it in my face later. He did it because that's just who he is. We're doing better now. I still have that car. Bennett worked magic. And we've moved to a slightly less crappy apartment where we can only hear the neighbors when they're actually fighting. But I keep a photo of those ruined work boots to remind me of what love actually looks like.